Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna try not to take too long in telling you about this next soul travel. This is the worst soul travel I've ever had. I will leave in the description box below if you want to know a little bit more about soul travel. I'll leave the little my video marker below in the comments so that you can see that previous video, and that'll explain a little bit more how soul travel works. I know that you can do it. You just have to be more aware when you go to bed, before you go to bed, and just tell yourself, hey, I want to soul travel. I want my soul to be able to just leave my body and go different places and see different things. But you do have to practice it. You may want to do a little bit of research on it, and if anybody's curious, just leave me a comment after the video, and I'll be more than happy to try to answer any questions. But I'm going to get right into my story. Okay, again, this is another soul travel that I've had. So I wake up in the dream. I lived in an apartment in Florida, where a lot of my stories takes place in this apartment. The apartment faced a parking lot, and there were buildings and other houses behind it. And I'm explaining that, but you'll see why later. So I wake up, and that's what it feels like when you soul travel. It feels like you wake up and you're in a different place. So when I woke up, everything was exactly the same, but there were major differences. When I woke up, of course, I was in my nightie, I was in my bed. I looked around and the light was dim. It wasn't dark. It wasn't dark enough for you not to see, but it was hard for you to focus on anything. It would take a minute for you to be able to focus and see something. And the weather was hot. And of course, I was in Florida, so it is humid there. It's a humid hot. But this heat was dry, it was warm, and it was not hot enough for you to sweat, but it wasn't comfortable by any means. It was just more irritating. And also, everything in my room was rotted. The walls, the floors, everything in my room was rotting or disintegrating or coming apart and looked very, very old. So I knew immediately that I was in a different place. I knew that I was, I don't know, it was like a mirror image of here. It was just really weird. So at the same time I'm taking all this in, I noticed that somebody is in the room with me, and they're in the corner, and I couldn't see them right off the bat, but as I concentrated and I looked, of course, in the darkest corner of the room, I see them huddled there, and it looked like he was in a white robe. And how I knew this, I don't know, but he was an escaped mental patient from I don't know where, from a hospital nearby, and we did have hospitals nearby. So he was in the corner, and he had the darkest under eye circles. I couldn't really see his eyes, but I could tell they were really, really black and dark. And from what I could tell, because his skin was so pale, he had teeth that had been filed down to points. Oh, and okay, and again, how do I know this? I don't know, but he had snuck into my apartment, which freaked me out because my sister worked nights. So I'm like, dear God, someone has snuck into my apartment. He wanted to eat me. I don't know, his mental disorder, whatever craziness he had, he wanted to eat me. So by then I was panicking, I was freaking out. I'm like, I'm thinking, what can I do? So before I would go to bed, I had really dry feet, so I would put Vaseline on my feet every night, and I still do it. But I had the Vaseline jar right next to my bed. So I figured, okay, spur of the moment thing, I scooped out some Vaseline, and I figured if I offer that to him, or I extend my hand out, he'll think that it'll give him a chance to grab me, or maybe, I don't know, maybe he'll grab it and he'll slip, and then I'll have a chance to get out. Well, it worked. So I jumped off the bed, I grabbed the Vaseline, I extended my hand, he grabbed it and slipped and fell back, and I was able to get out of the room. So when I got out of the room, of course, I'm all slippery. The door opened outward. So when I was trying to hold the doorknob, it was really hard for me to hold on to the doorknob. As I was running out, I did grab my phone. So I got on the phone. I was trying to dial 911. That was a ridiculous whole other nightmare. The girl on the phone sounded like she was a catalog operator, and I was buying clothing or purchasing something from her. She would come on and off and on and off, and I would hear her in the background talking and laughing, and I'm trying to explain to her what's going on. I need the police, and she's like, yeah, I'll get them for you. Very nonchalant. I went through this over and over and over and over. And then I would think the policemen are coming, and I would hear the sirens in the background outside, and they would pass. And then they would come and they would pass. And then I was back on the phone. And then I'd hear the policeman and they would come. I mean, this was over and over and over again. And then finally, Finally, I hear a knock at the door. As I was trying to call this chick again, I hear a knock at the door and I'm like, come in, come in, come in. So they come in and it was 2 police officers. So, you know, you see the police, great, the police were there. And I was like, oh my God, the police are here, the police are here, everything's okay, everything's okay. I'm still trying to hold on to the door. I'm still trying to explain to them what's going on. I'm like, come in, come in, come in. But when I saw them, their demeanor, you're supposed to be happy when you see the police. You're supposed to be relieved. You're supposed to be, oh my God, you know, help is here, help has arrived, and I'm good, I'm gonna be fine. That's not what I felt. When they got there, they gave me this look like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm in my apartment and I called you. So, you know, what is this attitude of what am I doing or what did I do? I felt like I had done something wrong. But anyway, you know, they passed me by and they're looking at me, giving me an up and down look, and I'm like, whatever, just please, he's in the room, get him. And so they go past me into my bedroom. And as I come out into the living room, what do I find? 2 more uninvited guests were sitting on my couch. Now these guys looked like the only other movie that I can say that maybe you'll get a good picture of what these things look like was what do you call that movie? Something Hill. Oh God, Silent Hill. Silent Hill, that movie Silent Hill, with all those creatures with the robes and the twisted heads. That's what they look like. They look like over exaggerated monks. Their habits were thick and grotesque. They had long sleeves. They had their hoods were gigantic and pointed, and it just looked like the texture of what they were wearing was like so thick. It didn't look normal. And then the sashes that normally a monk would have around, it's just like a thin rope. It was like that big and that thick and that round. And I'm like, oh my God, but that wasn't the worst part. That was not the worst part. The worst, I think, was one, he had a pointed head and it was twisted. It was just a mass of flesh that was twisted, and that was his head. The other guy had a oval mound of flesh that was kind of shaped like an egg with absolutely no face. And they were looking at each other, like talking in clacking sounds, like they were, and laughing. They were laughing, like making fun of me, like just laughing at the whole situation. And I lost my mind right then, and I was screaming and I was yelling, get out, get out, get out. By then the cops come out of the room, and I'm like, okay, they got the guy. And I was so, you know, I was glad to see them come out, and, you know, I was going to tell them to take the other 2 monk things that were sitting on my couch laughing at me. So instead of coming out with this guy in handcuffs, he was just freely walking behind them. So before I knew it, the cops, again with that same attitude, like, what are you doing, lunge for me. They try to grab me. I'm like, oh, no way. I completely lost my mind. I started kicking, I started screaming, I started punching. I just attacked. I attacked like a crazy person, like a cat backed into a corner. And I remember I landed a punch into one of those monk things, and my whole fist went in. It felt like soft putty. I mean, literally my fist went all the way into his head. And I don't know how I got away, but I got away. Again, everything was exactly the same, but instead of seeing the parking lot and my car, which I didn't have the key to anyway, so I wouldn't have been able to use, it was nothing but woods. Rotting woods as far as the eye could see. So I don't think I could have been in more of a panic. I didn't know what to do at that point, so I started running down the parking lot, and I ran into these, what looked like goth, younger kids. I don't know if they were kids, they just looked like younger people up dressed in goth gear. So I saw that they had a phone, and it's really funny because the phone that they had was a phone that I had purchased a while ago. And I don't know if you remember, there was Pentec. It was a company that used to make these little phones that look like pens. And I remember that it was an actual phone because I bought it from HSN once upon a time. And so I grabbed the phone and I'm trying to call, and of course the same thing happened. The same nightmare of a person came on the phone, the same chick, the catalog chick, and you know, she was like, okay, you know, we'll get more police officers out there. And by then the kids just grabbed the phone and keep walking. So I remember knowing that I had to get away, I ran around the corner, and instead of seeing the street and there was a gas station that was right across the main street, it was just nothing but more rutted woods. By this point, I heard them coming behind me, and then I heard this thing coming from in the woods, and it sounded huge. And I just remembered hearing cracking branches and trees, and it was coming my way. And little did I know that, you know, by the time I realized it, it was too late. I was alive in this place. I was a living soul in this place that I should not have been able to go to. And it didn't matter where I went. It didn't matter where I hid. It didn't matter where I was. They were going to come and find me. So, but in my panic, you know, as we do in a panic or when we're afraid, we try to hide. I ran further down, and instead of seeing my apartment complex, they were just houses, more rotted, disgusting houses. Now, I decided to hide on one of the porches of one of these houses. And of course, how did I know this? The house that I decided to hide on, or the porch that I decided to hide on, belonged to a woman who was a child abuser, and she had red hair. How do I know this? I don't know, but I had no choice. So I go into her porch, and she had crates, and she had just a bunch of junk on her porch, and I'm trying to hide, and I'm trying to squeeze behind this one cardboard thing, and you know, I'm trying to move everything and put it on top of me. And I remember my nightie got stuck, and at that point the thing in the woods was getting closer, and it started making this unbelievable noise that I will never forget to the day I die. And I remember the wood started parting, and right then I thought I would go crazy. And right at that moment I remembered, you know, please God, get me out. And as soon as I said the word God, I woke up. So when I opened my eyes, hysteria ensued. I started crying uncontrollably. I couldn't breathe. I was useless. I couldn't even pick up a phone to call anyone to tell them about it, because it was that bad. I just went from how I am now to complete hysteria. All I could do was pray. I started praying. I said the St. Michael prayer. At this point, I'm wide awake and very much hysterical. So I remember begging, please, you know, just come. Don't let me go back into that place. I remember begging St. Michael to not let me go back in there or anywhere near there. And this is I'm only telling you what happened, and this is what I believe happened. I believe that he actually did come. I started feeling a tingling sensation from the tips of my toes, and it started traveling up my body. Basically, when it got to my waist, I was completely calm. I went from complete hysterical, can't breathe, crying, not knowing what to do, to calm, just like I am now. And before I knew it, I fell asleep. And when I woke up the next day, it was like I had slept for 2 weeks. It was the best rest that I had ever gotten in my entire life. So, and that is the worst soul travel I've ever had. I know it's probably hard for you to believe, but honestly, you can't make this stuff up. And if you keep watching my videos, you'll see from my dreams to the things that have happened to me, you cannot make this up. So anyway, that's the end of my video. I hope you like it. If you like my face, if you like my stories, please give me a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I guess until my next video, see you later.